Hey guys, tonight we're diving fork first into the forgotten minefield of American culture, the 1950s diner. That's right, the land of checkered floors, chrome stools and milkshakes so thick you needed the upper body strength of a young Marlon Brando just to get a sip. But under the fluorescent glow and the gentle hum of the jukebox, there lurked something darker than a burnt cup of Maxwell House: the rules. And I don't mean please wait to be seated. I mean the labyrinth of unspoken, absurd and occasionally deranged codes of conduct that could get you thrown out faster than you could say hold the mayo. So before you slide into a vinyl booth, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your go-to diner order and what time it is for you, because if you're listening to this, there's at least a 75% chance you're eating snacks in bed. Now dim the lights, fire up a fan for that classic kitchen white noise, and get comfortable. Put your phone on silent unless you're ordering takeout, because tonight you're about to enter a world where ketchup is a controlled substance and ordering a salad is a misdemeanor. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to actually live by 1950s diner rules? What counts as an offence worthy of public shaming? Would you survive the social gauntlet of sharing a booth with 3 chain-smoking teenagers? Would you get booted for putting ketchup on your eggs? Or does that just earn you a stern talking to from a woman named Dolores? How many times can you try to order just water before the waitress turns your coffee cup upside down in silent judgment? Would you last 1 hour before a soda jerk banished you to the curb for crimes against burger etiquette? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1954. The neon is buzzing. Your hair is full of Brill cream. And you're about to find out exactly how not to get yourself banned from the only place in town that serves fries after 8 p.m. It's 7:03 a.m. and you've committed your first sin, sitting in Old Man Harper's sacred stool at the counter. In the 1950s, every regular had territorial rights. That cracked red vinyl seat isn't just a place to park your rear, it's a throne, and you, newcomer, have just staged a coup d'etat with disastrous consequences. You probably thought all stools were created equal. Maybe you even admired this one for its extra padding, its prime location under the coffee pot, or the way it wobbles just enough to keep your senses sharp. But here's the thing. In a 1950s diner, seats aren't first come, first served. They're ancestral property, passed down through generations, or at least since the Truman administration. You don't just sit there, you inherit it. And Old Man Harper, as local legend has it, has been perched on that stool since before the great pancake flood of 47. As soon as your cheeks make contact with the vinyl, the atmosphere shifts. The cook pauses mid-griddle. Dolores, the waitress, freezes, coffee pot suspended mid-air. A fork clatters somewhere in the distance. You glance up, still blissfully unaware, and catch the reflections of a half-dozen regulars, all craning their necks to see what poor soul is foolish enough to trespass on sacred ground. It's you. You are the poor soul. Now, Old Man Harper is a force of nature. He doesn't so much walk in as drift, propelled by a cloud of menthol and quiet menace. Every morning, he arrives at 7:05, never early, never late, and claims his stool by silent decree. There's no sign, no reservation card, just the unwritten law of the land. Harper's spot is Harper's spot. Everyone knows it, except you. He shuffles in, regards you with rheumy eyes, and then, without a word, stands directly behind you, just breathing. The locals call this the polite standoff. You, meanwhile, suddenly remember every bad decision you've ever made, from that time you put ketchup on your eggs to the current moment where you've clearly chosen violence against local custom. Dolores, always diplomatic, gives you a chance to escape with your dignity intact. Sugar, you sure you want to sit there? She asks. It's not a question. It's a lifeline. But you, bold, caffeinated, or maybe just still half asleep, decide to stay. Maybe you're thinking, what's the worst that could happen? It's just a chair. Wrong. The temperature drops. There's a subtle collective intake of breath. Old Man Harper doesn't complain, doesn't make a scene. Instead, he sits one stool down, a silent protest that radiates through the room. Dolores pours his coffee anyway, but she does it with the resigned air of a woman watching history unravel. The regulars mutter into their oatmeal. The cook flips your pancake with a little less love. Soon you notice that the chatter never quite resumes. The jukebox skips. Someone coughs, and it echoes like a gunshot. You try to eat your breakfast, but the eyes of the entire establishment bore into you. Every sip of coffee feels like a personal affront to the spirit of small-town order. In modern terms, this is like sitting in someone else's assigned seat on a cross-country flight, except now the entire cabin is in on it, and they'll remember your face forever. You could try to apologise, but it's too late. Your fate is sealed. For the rest of your time in town, you are the one who sat in Harper's seat. Children are warned about you. Dolores tells the story in future years, usually with a sigh and a headshake. And the kicker, when you finally get up to leave, Old Man Harper slides wordlessly into his rightful place. The universe snaps back into balance, and the diner's usual hum returns. Your coffee cup is already being washed. The stool still feels warm, but the rest of the place feels icy. You leave a good tip, hoping for redemption. It won't help. Congratulations. You've been gently, irreversibly banned. Not by the owner, but by the will of the people. And somewhere, Harper cracks a rare, knowing smile into his black coffee. Order has been restored. Welcome to the diner. Choose your seat carefully. You scan the menu and in a fit of health-conscious rebellion, order the fruit plate. The cook stares. The waitress blinks. The other diners drop their toast in horror. Welcome to 1954, where anything not fried in beef tallow is considered culinary heresy and a direct threat to national security. The silence after your request is immediate and absolute, like the moment before a tornado flattens a barn. For a split second, you wonder if maybe you pronounce fruit wrong. Maybe fruit is secret diner code for bring me a raw T-bone, extra American. But no, the problem is far more fundamental. You have dared to question the sanctity of the diner menu, a document so revered that it might as well have been carved onto stone tablets and delivered straight from Mount Sinai by a man in a paper hat. You could have asked for bacon, eggs, toast, any of the Blessed Trinity. You could have ordered pancakes so big they spill off the plate, or a milkshake with enough whipped cream to drown a raccoon. Even the humble burger, that greasy icon of American exceptionalism, would have won you a slow nod of approval. But instead, you have chosen the path of the fruit plate, a medley of pale, out-of-season melon cubes, an anemic slice of orange, and a single grape perched like a monument to disappointment. The cook, a man whose blood type is likely gravy, leans forward, eyes narrowed. He hasn't seen a fruit plate ordered since World War II rationing, and even then, it was considered an act of mild treason. You half expect him to reach under the counter and pull out a loyalty oath, or maybe just throw a slice of bacon at you for protection. Dolores, your long-suffering waitress, writes down your order as if signing your execution warrant. 1 fruit plate, she announces, projecting her voice so every carnivore in the room can bear witness. There's the soft clatter of utensils as people quietly mourn your arteries. A woman in a gingham dress shakes her head. Someone mutters, "Must be a communist." You stare at your placemat, already regretting your life choices. The grill hisses as the cook, insulted to his core, musters up enough professional dignity to locate the fruit section of his walk-in fridge. This involves moving 6 gallons of lard, a slab of ham, and a crate of onions that have never once shared shelf space with anything remotely vitamin-rich. You imagine the fruit is stored in a small locked box labelled break glass in case of out-of-town hippie. Meanwhile, the regulars can't help themselves. A guy with a buzz cut and a tie leans over from the next booth, eyeing you like you just declared war on mashed potatoes. "You know," he says, "my cousin tried fruit once. Now he lives in California." Another man snickers. Next thing you know, you'll be ordering water with lemon. You try to stand your ground, but as your fruit plate arrives, a sad parade of limp melon, ghostly grapes, and a single forlorn strawberry. Dolores places it in front of you with a look that says, "I hope you're happy with yourself." The cook watches from behind the pass, waiting to see if you'll actually eat it, or if you'll break down and beg for a real breakfast like a proper American. Each bite tastes of isolation. The fruit is cold, watery, and suspiciously reminiscent of whatever perfume Dolores wears. But you chew gamely, trying not to notice the rising mutters. Around you, eggs are flipped, bacon sizzles, and hash browns are crisped into oblivion. The aroma of fried comfort food wraps around you like a security blanket you're not allowed to touch. You finish your meal quickly, suddenly desperate to return to the fold. You order a side of hash browns just to prove your loyalty. Dolores smiles, pours you more coffee, and the room warms by 2 degrees. The tension fades. The cook relaxes. The grape rolls off your plate and onto the floor, where it will probably be dealt with by the health department in the next Eisenhower administration. Congratulations, you've survived your brief fruit-fueled rebellion. You'll never be truly trusted again. But at least Dolores brings you an extra packet of sugar. Consider it a peace offering. Next time, just order the pancakes. You reach for the ketchup and gasp, put it on your scrambled eggs. A hush falls. Dolores, who's worked here since World War II, narrows her eyes. We don't do that here, she says. Suddenly your condiment choices are grounds for exile. You're not just eating breakfast, you're rewriting the rules of engagement. In 1954, diner etiquette isn't written down, but it's as binding as the US Constitution, possibly more so since everyone actually remembers it. Ketchup on scrambled eggs? You might as well have walked into a church and started painting the pews. There are places where ketchup is welcome, on fries, on a burger, maybe a meatloaf if you're from the wrong side of the tracks. But eggs? That's a red line, literally and figuratively. You try to play it cool, maybe if you move quickly, no one will notice. Maybe Dolores is too busy refilling coffee to care what you're doing with your breakfast. But Dolores is never too busy. She sees everything, and the ketchup bottle in your hand is now the smoking gun in a culinary whodunit. Her tone isn't angry. It's disappointed. The sort of disappointment that can only be honed over decades of watching people break sacred breakfast traditions. Around you, the diner's regulars stare, forks frozen mid-bite. Old Man Harper's newspaper droops. The trucker 2 stools down mutters, "Now I've seen everything." Even the cook stops scraping the grill for a moment, spatula in mid-air, as if wondering whether to add your name to the do not serve list taped to the side of the fridge. You soldier on, dabbing ketchup with the precision of a forensics technician, just a little, just to try. The first bite is pure rebellion. The tangy sweetness cuts through the eggs, and you're forced to admit it's actually not bad. Not that anyone else will ever know. Around here, taste is less important than tradition. In this room, your palate is irrelevant. What matters is that you've desecrated the breakfast altar. Dolores approaches, coffee pot in hand, her expression somewhere between a warning and a silent prayer for your soul. "You want hot sauce?" she offers, loud enough for everyone to hear. Translation: let's see if you double down on your crimes, or if there's hope for you yet. You shake your head, sensing a trap. Someone coughs into their sleeve, stifling a laugh. For a moment you try to rationalize your decision. Ketchup on eggs is normal where you come from, you want to say. Maybe you grew up in a house where the 5 basic food groups were ketchup, toast, breakfast sausage, regret, and orange drink. But this isn't home. This is Dolores's kingdom, and in her kingdom ketchup stays on the plate, preferably near the hash browns, never crossing the demilitarized zone into egg territory. The table next to you has a young couple, possibly new in town. They look at you with a mixture of horror and curiosity, as if you've just performed some sort of avant-garde breakfast performance art. The man whispers, "Should we try it?" The woman shakes her head. "You want to get us kicked out. Smart woman. You finish your eggs under a cloud of suspicion." Dolores refills your coffee with a heavy sigh, as if she's trying to wash away your sins one drip at a time. The regulars resume eating, but the incident is not forgotten. For the rest of your time here, you'll be the one who put ketchup on their eggs, the culinary equivalent of wearing white after Labor Day, or trying to pay for your meal in Canadian coins. When you finally get up to leave, Dolores gives you a look that's half forgiving, half warning. Next time, she says, "Try the hot sauce, or better yet, just salt and pepper. It's the American way." You nod, chastened but undefeated. You drop a generous tip, a humble offering to the gods of diner order. Outside, the world feels a little colder. Maybe it's the brisk morning air, or maybe it's the realization that in this town, ketchup on eggs is a one-way ticket to outsider status. You'll think twice next time, but in your heart, you know the truth. The eggs really were better with ketchup. Just don't tell Dolores. You finish your coffee, but you dare to pour yourself a refill from the communal pot. Dolores's eyebrow arches. In the 1950s diner, only the waitress may touch the sacred urn. Anything else is a capital offence, punishable by a slow, passive-aggressive banishment. The moment your hand wraps around the pot's battered handle, the room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. There are rules here, unspoken, ancient, and as binding as the 10 Commandments of the short order. The sacred urn, chipped but shining from 1,000 polishings, is not for mortal hands. It is Dolores's alone. Maybe the cook could touch it in an emergency, but only with Dolores's express permission and a note from his mother. At first, you don't realise what you've done. You just want more coffee. Maybe you're tired, maybe you're emboldened by the extra shot of caffeine you already had, or maybe you're still living in a world where self-service means help yourself. That world doesn't exist here. Here, service is not just a courtesy, it's a ritual. The pouring of coffee is an act as sacred as communion, performed by someone who knows not to let the pot drip, not to overfill, and never, never to let the coffee get cold. The regulars watch in horrified fascination, like villagers witnessing someone knock over the town statue. Old Man Harper's spoon hovers above his oatmeal. The cook leans in from behind the pass, spatula limp in his hand. Somewhere, a car backfires outside, but nobody flinches. All eyes are on you. The heretic at the altar of caffeine. You tip the pot. The coffee gurgles out, black, thin, and somehow both too hot and too cold, as only diner coffee can be. You fill your cup, set the pot back on its burner, and look up. Dolores is already there, towel over her arm, eyebrow arched high enough to breach local building codes. She doesn't yell. That's not her way. Instead, she approaches, movements slow and deliberate, like a cat stalking a particularly insolent mouse. "Can I help you with something?" she asks, and you can feel the weight of 1,000 generations of diner etiquette pressing down on your shoulders. You try to explain. "I just needed a refill. Didn't want to bother you." The words sound thin, even to your own ears. Dolores gives a little smile, no teeth, all business. "That's what I'm here for," she says. And then, the real punishment begins. For the next 10 minutes, she ignores your existence with the kind of determination normally reserved for tax collectors and visiting in-laws. Your water glass is suspiciously empty. Your toast cools, neglected and pale. When she passes by, she refills every other cup except yours, moving with an efficiency that feels deeply personal. The regulars, who moments ago regarded you with suspicion, now see an opportunity for camaraderie. "Don't worry, kid," someone says. "We've all done it once. Only once." Laughter ripples through the room, warm and just a little bit pitying. You are now a story. Remember that one fella who poured his own coffee, destined to be retold over meatloaf and mashed potatoes for the next 20 years. Meanwhile, Dolores moves on with her day, the keeper of the urn and the natural order. You are left to reflect on your sins, staring into your cup and wondering if self-service is worth the cost of social exile. You vow never to make the same mistake again. When Dolores finally refills your cup, it's with a sense of ceremony. She pours just to the brim, never spilling a drop, and gives you a little nod. Forgiveness? Diner style. Outside, you'll go back to your world of bottomless brunches and serve yourself soda fountains. But in here, you've learned a simple truth. Some things are sacred. Coffee, like respect, must be served by the right hands. Anything else is just asking for trouble and possibly decaf. You take your next sip carefully. Order is restored. The diner hums once more. You pump a quarter into the jukebox and select a song that isn't on the approved morning list. Now everyone's eating pancakes to the beat of Little Richard instead of Perry Como. Congratulations, you've disrupted the natural order and risked a lifetime ban. There are unwritten rules for everything in a 1950s diner, but the jukebox is the one place where chaos and order go to war daily. In the quiet morning lull, before the friars start working overtime and the lunchtime crowds descend, there is a sacred playlist. Perry Como, maybe a little Patti Page, or the most daring among them might venture a Nat King Cole tune. Anything else is considered social arson. If the pancakes aren't being serenaded by soothing crooners, something has gone terribly wrong. But here you are, fingers slick with syrup and bravado, choosing Little Richard's Tutti Frutti at 8:17 a.m. The stylus drops, the opening wail echoes, and forks freeze halfway to mouths. Coffee is momentarily forgotten. Old Man Harper clutches his chest, uncertain if it's heartburn or a true existential crisis. Dolores, who has been serving eggs and wisdom here since the jukebox only cost a nickel, shoots you a look so sharp it could slice through ham steak. The thing about the diner's musical routine is that it isn't just about taste. It's a survival mechanism. Perry Como's gentle warble keeps the regulars calm, lulls the cook into his third hour of meditative griddle flipping, and tells everyone's nervous system that, for at least this one moment, the world is stable and safe. Little Richard, on the other hand, is a shot of adrenaline straight to the pancakes. Now the syrup feels less like comfort and more like rocket fuel. You didn't know, of course. Maybe you thought, what's the harm in a little early rock and roll? Maybe you're from out of town where people eat eggs to Elvis and the world hasn't ended. Maybe you thought a little morning energy would wake everyone up. Instead, you've woken the ancient spirits of diner etiquette. The cook's spatula pauses mid-air. Breakfast isn't supposed to be exciting, he mutters. It's supposed to be beige. A mother at the next table claps her hands over her children's ears, as if the boogie-woogie is going to corrupt their spelling quizzes. Someone suggests, not entirely joking, that you might be from New Jersey. But you're committed now. You sip your coffee to the frantic beat, trying to look casual. A little old lady, Mrs. McCleary, turns to you and asks, "Are you feeling all right, dear?" As if choosing the wrong song is a symptom of something much, much worse. She's seen men lose jobs and marriages, but never dignity this quickly. Dolores, of course, is the true judge. She gives you a chance, a single warning. If you want to play music, honey, stick to the list on the napkin holder, and there it is. A handwritten, ketchup-stained slip of paper with the only acceptable morning songs enshrined in law and scotch tape. You glance around, wondering if you should apologise or double down. The next song in the queue is even more scandalous, Chuck Berry. Sensing a possible riot, you quickly select Catch a Falling Star, hoping to soothe the crowd. The regulars relax, but the memory of your rebellion will linger long after the hash browns are gone. You've learned your lesson. In the 1950s diner, the jukebox is a tool of peace, not revolution. Tomorrow, when you drop in your quarter, you'll play it safe, maybe some Dean Martin, or even silence. Order is restored. The pancakes resume their dignified march into history, and Dolores gives you a smile, small, knowing, and full of mercy. And somewhere in the distance, you swear you hear the faint echo of Little Richard, reminding you that breakfast, like history, is sometimes one wild song away from anarchy. You order a chocolate milkshake before 10 a.m. The short order cook stops mid-flip. There are rules about when and how one consumes dairy-based desserts. You, my friend, are about to become a cautionary tale for future generations. In a 1950s diner, the day is built on a strict schedule. Coffee and eggs at dawn, burgers and fries at noon, pie and ice cream after 5. Milkshakes have their own sacred window, opening precisely when the first high schooler wanders in after school and closing just before the night shift crowd trickles in. They are not under any circumstances for breakfast. The idea of drinking ice cream before the clock strikes double digits is considered so unholy that, for a moment, you're sure the health department will materialise to slap a citation on your forehead. Your request echoes across the linoleum. Dolores, halfway through her routine of distributing tiny creamers and unsolicited life advice, freezes. The cook sets down his spatula, brow furrowing as if you've just asked him to scramble eggs with a shoe. The regulars peer at you over their newspapers, jaws slack. For a moment, you wonder if you accidentally ordered in a foreign language. But no, you spoke plainly. It's just that milkshake for breakfast is the sort of radical idea that threatens the foundation of small-town order. In the 1950s, this is breakfast blasphemy, the kind of thing that gets written about in the local paper's Crimes and Curiosities column, right under Man Tries to Return a Used Toaster. Dolores approaches, her smile polite but trembling at the edges. "You sure about that, sugar?" she asks. "It's not concern for your nutrition, after all. This is a place where hash browns count as a vegetable. It's concern for your soul." The cook is already whispering to the fry guy, and you catch snippets. He wants a milkshake. Before toast. Can you imagine? You start to realise you're in for an experience that will leave a mark on this place's history. She writes your order down, slow and dramatic, like a judge pronouncing sentence. 1 chocolate milkshake for breakfast. You swear she underlines it for emphasis. The entire diner watches your next move, ready to see if you're going to eat it with a straw or just upend it directly into your cereal bowl. The cook makes your milkshake, but you can tell it pains him. He thumps the metal mixing cup with a little extra force as if to punish it for existing outside the natural order. The blender starts up, a violent, whirring protest that sounds less like sweet nostalgia and more like the machinery of justice. When the milkshake finally arrives, it's a thing of beauty. Tall glass, perfect swirl of whipped cream, a cherry perched on top like a red warning light. But you can't enjoy it. You're acutely aware of the silent judgment. The man 2 stools down leans in, as if watching a demolition derby, and mutters, "Next thing you know, he'll be asking for pie a la mode at sunrise." Dolores sets it before you with a gentle sigh and a whispered, "Bless your heart." The first sip is glorious, cold, rich, so thick it could stop a clock. For a second, you remember why you made this scandalous request in the first place, but it's hard to save a rebellion when everyone's waiting to see if you'll regret it. You meet the eyes of the locals. One nods in reluctant admiration, another shakes his head slowly, and a third scribbles something in a tiny notebook. Is it a list of town grievances or future breakfast warnings? You may never know. You finish the shake, sugar-high blossoming, ready to seize the day. But as you leave, Dolores calls after you. Come back after lunch next time, honey. The cook, already flipping pancakes with new vigour, nods. Your legend is secure. For weeks, maybe years afterward, your milkshake misconduct will be whispered about in the booth corners. Remember that fella who had ice cream for breakfast? Brave, but doomed. Order restored, the diner breathes easy again. But somewhere, in the frosty depths of the shake machine, your name is immortalized. Not in glory, but in creamy, cautionary infamy. You ask for less ice in your cola. The soda jerk, king of the fountain, stares in disbelief. In his realm, the ratios are sacred, and you've just questioned his authority. Only two outcomes: banishment or a glass of pure syrup as retribution. In a 1950s diner, the soda jerk isn't just some kid behind the counter. He's the maestro of carbonation, the wizard of whipped cream peaks, the architect of every root beer float and cherry phosphate that has ever passed these chrome-trimmed walls. His hat is crisp, his smile is quick, and his movements are choreographed with the casual grace of someone who can pour 2 sodas at once while humming along to rock around the clock. But above all else, he is a stickler for ritual. Every fizz, every cube, every splash of cola is measured with near-religious precision. You, innocent and thirsty, make your request. Could I get that with less ice? 4 words, but they land like a dropped pie at a church bake sale. Conversation stalls. The cook stops scraping the grill. Dolores, who can sense a disruption in diner equilibrium from across the room, looks over with a mixture of concern and admiration. You've done the unthinkable. The soda jerk's eyes narrow, his jaw sets. Less ice, he repeats, as if translating a passage from an ancient forbidden scroll. He glances at the soda fountain, then back at you. You sure? His tone suggests that what you're really asking for is a one-way ticket out of town. Because here's the thing. The ice-to-soda ratio is a law, not a suggestion. It keeps the drink cold, the bubbles lively, and, let's be honest, ensures the syrup stretches just a little further. There's a reason your cola comes out cold enough to make your teeth ache and lasts exactly as long as a slice of pie. Mess with the formula, and you threaten the delicate balance that holds diner civilization together. But you stand your ground. Maybe you're hoping for more cola. Maybe you want to avoid the watery aftermath. Maybe, just maybe, you're a time traveller sent from the future where people shamelessly customize their beverages. Either way, you've started a chain reaction. The soda jerk doesn't scold you. He simply nods, slowly, ominously, and goes to work. He fills the glass with exactly one solitary cube of ice, then pours the cola. The result? A drink so syrupy, so sweet, so dense it might qualify as a new state of matter. The first sip nearly glues your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Your taste buds go on strike. Anything else? The soda jerk asks, voice perfectly polite but with an edge sharper than a steak knife. The regulars watch, riveted. This is better than the Saturday double feature. Dolores covers a smile with her order pad. The cook mutters, "That'll teach 'em." You soldier on, determined not to let a little hyperglycemia defeat you. The cola is an ordeal, a sticky, unending river of sugar. You try to pace yourself, but every mouthful leaves you thirstier. At some point you start to crave the ice you rejected, picturing it in vivid, crystalline detail, weeping at the bottom of a proper glass. A kid at the counter pipes up, "That's what happens when you sass the soda jerk." His mum shushes him, but she's smiling too. You've become a story, another legend of diner hubris, retold every time someone tries to get smart with the fountain man. By the time you leave, you've finished half your cola and aged 5 years. The soda jerk gives you a salute, equal parts respect and warning. The ritual is restored. Order, chilled and carbonated, reigns again. Next time, you'll take your soda the house way. Cold, bubbly, and with exactly the right amount of ice. Because in this diner, some things just aren't meant to change. You slide into a booth, stretch out, and heaven help you, put your feet on the seat. In the eyes of the 1950s diner gods, this is an offence just below grand larceny. Dolores doesn't have to say a word. Her glare alone could curdle your milk. The booth is supposed to be a safe haven, a cosy, vinyl-padded sanctuary from the chaos of the griddle and the world outside. But with one careless move, you've violated a centuries-old peace treaty between guest and establishment. Your feet, dusted with the debris of Main Street and possibly haunted by the ghost of a flattened squirrel, now rest where, minutes ago, respectable bacon was consumed. The air shifts. A subtle, horrified gasp rustles the napkin holders. In the 1950s diner, every booth tells a story. Maybe two lovebirds once carved their initials into the table. Maybe a travelling salesman closed the deal of his career here over watery coffee and a club sandwich. There's a reason the vinyl's cracked in all the right places. It's the evidence of community, history, and 1,000 butts that learned to sit with dignity. Your shoes, however, are not part of that legacy. Dolores, moving with the stealth and certainty of a rattlesnake in an apron, glides over. She says nothing, but her eyebrows rise with such force you can hear the hinges creak. She sets your water down with the gentlest clink, the sound of judgment ringing in your ears. You meet her eyes, hoping for a sliver of forgiveness. But there's only the icy gaze of a woman who's seen it all and doesn't care for any of it before noon. Across the aisle, regulars look up from their crossword puzzles and sausage links. The elderly couple in the corner exchanges a glance. She clutches her pearls. He mutters something about the youth today. Even the soda jerk stops whistling Mr. Sandman long enough to see if you'll be ejected on the spot. A kid with a colouring book inches away from you, afraid your lawlessness might be contagious. You pretend not to notice. Maybe you're a rebel, or maybe you genuinely forgot that in this era, furniture was for sitting and feet were for literally anywhere else. You try to recover, maybe slide your feet off quietly, act like nothing happened. But the moment lingers. The booth, once a symbol of comfort, now feels like a defendant's chair. Each creak of the vinyl is the judge clearing their throat. In modern times, you might get away with it. People put their feet on subway seats, on airport chairs, even in their own homes. But here, in the hallowed halls of Dolores's diner, it's a mortal sin. Respect for shared spaces is not a suggestion. It's a commandment, written between the lines of the laminated menu and enforced by the silent community of pancake patriots. Dolores finally breaks the silence. Need a footrest, hun? Her tone is honeyed but deadly, a threat gift-wrapped in hospitality. You stammer an apology, removing your feet with all the ceremony of a medieval penitent. She wipes down the booth with a practiced flourish, just a spritz and a swipe, but in it, you sense the erasure of your momentary rebellion. You've been cleansed, forgiven, but not forgotten. The regulars return to their meals. Order settles over the diner like fresh coffee poured at sunrise. You resolve to keep your feet planted firmly on the floor, as nature and Dolores intended. For the rest of your visit, you sit up straighter, elbows off the table, best posture of your life. You're now painfully aware of every squeak and shuffle, living proof that even in the land of free refills, freedom comes with a side of social contract. You leave a good tip, hush money, really. Dolores gives you a nod as you go, and you sense that you've been admitted just barely back into the fold. The diner resumes its gentle hum. But somewhere, deep in the annals of local law, a new cautionary tale is born. The day someone put their feet on the booth seat. You pocket a handful of sugar packets for later. Unfortunately, the regulars have eyes everywhere. The local sheriff's wife sees you. The penalty? A lifetime ban and a reputation for thievery that follows your grandchildren. You might have thought this was a harmless act. Just a little sweet insurance for your coffee at work, or maybe for your purse, should you ever find yourself at a sugarless crossroads. But here, in the unblinking fluorescence of a 1950s diner, such behaviour is tantamount to grand larceny. The packets may be free with coffee, but that freedom is conditional, and the condition is you consume it here, under our roof, under Dolores's watchful gaze. It happens so quickly. You're sipping your second cup, absent-mindedly sliding those paper packets into your pocket, while everyone else is absorbed in crossword puzzles and flapjacks. But there are no secrets in a diner. A kid at the counter watches you, then tugs his mother's sleeve. The sheriff's wife, seated in her customary booth beneath the moose head, locks eyes with you and makes a small, precise note in her mental blacklist. Dolores glances over just in time to catch the tail end of your harmless heist. At first, nothing is said. The diner hums along, silverware clinking, bacon sizzling. Catch a falling star playing quietly in the background. But the tension is there, soft and sticky, just like the sugar on your conscience. Dolores approaches, coffee pot in hand, and tops you off with a smile so frosty you could use it to chill the butter. "You got enough sugar there, hun?" she asks, loud enough for the room to hear, but soft enough to let you imagine it's a private conversation. You stammer out an excuse. "Oh, I just like my coffee sweet, but you know it's over." Around here, trust is everything. The regulars have counted on those sugar packets being there every morning for years. You, an outsider, have thrown the entire system into chaos. What if everyone started hoarding sugar? Would society collapse? Would the coffee go unsweetened, the pie uneaten, the world unrecognizable? You're not just a thief, you're an agent of potential apocalypse. The cook peers through the pass-through, eyebrows raised. "Sticky fingers, huh?" he says to no one in particular, but everyone knows who he means. Even the busboy, still learning the ropes, gives you a wide berth as he clears plates as if sugar theft is contagious. You try to act natural, folding your napkin, sipping your coffee, but the damage is done. You think about returning the packets. Maybe if you slip them back, no one will notice. But that's not how it works. This isn't a victimless crime. The packets have touched the inside of your pocket. They've crossed the threshold. Their innocence, and yours, is lost forever. As you pay your bill, Dolores slides your change across the counter with a final, silent message. This is the last friendly transaction you'll receive. The regulars eye you, sizing up the potential for future mischief. The sheriff's wife whispers to the cashier, and you swear you catch the phrase "watch that one." A local legend is born, one that will outlive you. Remember when that stranger tried to walk out with half the sugar supply? You leave the diner, pockets full, but reputation empty. Years from now, your grandchildren might wander in for a milkshake, only to be met with suspicious glares and one simple question you wouldn't happen to be related to. The lesson, carved in sugar crystals and diner lore, is clear. Take only memories, leave only tips, and never, ever underestimate the power of the sugar packet shuffle. You order apple pie, but monstrously ask for it cold. This is America, not a Scandinavian furniture store. In the 1950s diner, pie comes warm, à la mode, and never ever served with existential European detachment. The entire place seems to pause, as if someone just unplugged the jukebox mid-chorus. Dolores, who has, for the record, microwaved more pie than most people have had birthdays, stands absolutely still, pie server suspended in mid-air like the sword of Damocles. "Cold, you say?" she repeats, not in judgment, but in the tone of a woman who has just been told the sun is optional. At the counter, a coffee cup clatters to its saucer. Someone coughs in the back booth and mutters, "Heathen." You don't mean to cause a scene. Maybe you just like your pie the way it comes out of the fridge, sturdy, resilient, unyielding in the face of adversity. Maybe you once saw a French film and thought dessert should be mysterious, unsweetened, a bit melancholy. But here, pie is a celebration. It's served warm, as a comfort, topped with a scoop of vanilla ice cream that melts just right. A cold slice of pie is something you find at the back of the icebox after a funeral, not the centerpiece of your afternoon treat. Dolores tries to help. "You sure you don't want it heated, honey?" she asks, voice gentle as if guiding a lost soul. "Maybe a little ice cream on the side." The subtext is clear. This is your last chance at redemption. But you stick to your guns, perhaps emboldened by past victories in the world of unconventional breakfast orders, or maybe just because you think the rules don't apply to you. No, cold is fine, you say. You hear a fork drop 3 booths away. The kitchen, usually a machine of sizzling order, goes oddly quiet. The cook emerges, wiping his hands on his apron just to see who would make such a request. "We could nuke it for you," he offers, clearly hoping to restore the natural order. You decline again. The pie, when it arrives, is placed before you with the gravity of a court summons. The first bite is crisp, the crust slightly rubbery from its time spent waiting for justice in the fridge. The apples are firm, refusing to surrender their chill. You chew bravely, but the taste is less apple harvest and more January storage room. Across the diner, people watch. A couple on their lunch break leans in, the man whispering, "I hear that's how they eat it in Sweden." The woman shakes her head. "It's not right, Ed. As you eat, you realize you're not just violating pie protocol, you're challenging the foundation of American comfort food. Warm pie is a promise. Things might be hard, but at least dessert is soft, gooey, and sweet. Cold pie is a dare. Are you tough enough to face the world as it is? No heating required. Dolores checks in, a little less often than usual. She keeps a safe distance, but you can see her eyeing your table, perhaps bracing for further culinary surprises. Someone orders just coffee in solidarity, trying to shift the balance of normalcy back toward the familiar. You finish the slice. The plate is cleared away, carefully, as if it might be contagious. The bill comes with a complimentary mint, but not the warm come-again you get with the peach cobbler. You've made your mark, not in glory, but as a footnote in local legend, the cold pie incident. As you step out, you pass Dolores at the register. She gives you a nod, half sympathy, half respect for your stubbornness. In the lore of the diner, you're now immortalized, not as a rebel, but as a warning. In America, some things are just meant to be warm, and pie is at the top of that list. You ask for gravy on your fries, a fork drops. Somewhere, a distant bell tolls. In this establishment, that's a Canadian sin, and the only acceptable answer is with ketchup or nothing at all. The waitress makes a note in the big black book of rule breakers. You meant well. Maybe you once had fries with gravy at a rest stop up north. Maybe you saw it in a magazine, or your cousin brought it back as a wild story from Montreal. But here, in the heart of 1950s American diner country, such a request is a direct affront to the house that ketchup built. The idea that someone would sully a perfectly respectable plate of golden, crisp, all-American French fries with a slathering of brown, foreign sauce is enough to send shockwaves down the Formica counter. Dolores doesn't even blink as she pulls a stubby notebook from her apron. She flips to a mysterious dog-eared section, the big black book. Every diner has one. In it, the names and orders of those who strayed too far from the path, who once asked for mayonnaise on their BLT, or committed the unthinkable act of requesting whole wheat. You hear the pencil scratch as she writes, Table 4, freeze with gravy. There's no judgment in her eyes, just the resigned calm of a woman who's seen 1,000 small rebellions and knows they all end the same way. Across the aisle, the regulars exchange nervous glances. One leans over, whispering, "Next thing you know, he'll ask for vinegar." The other shudders, as if you've threatened to replace the jukebox with a bagpipe band. The cook, a veteran of the hash war and a purist at heart, peeks through the pass window. "Gravy," he mouths, incredulous. He's never crossed the border, but he's heard the stories. You're not deterred. You stand your ground. "Just a little on the side?" you say, your voice thin but hopeful. Dolores shrugs. "If you say so, hon," and disappears into the kitchen. The regulars return to their plates, but there's a palpable tension, a sense that at any moment the American Legion might burst in and confiscate your fries. When the plate arrives, the fries are perfect. Hot, crisp, lightly salted. The kind that can withstand a dip in just about anything. Next to them sits a small, steaming cup of gravy. Dark, mysterious, and full of possibility. Dolores places it in front of you with the care usually reserved for hazardous materials. Here you go. Just don't let the cook see. The first bite is heaven. The fries soaking up the savoury goodness, the gravy clinging to every crevice. For a moment you forget the stares and the mutters. You remember only the taste, the glorious rule-breaking taste. But each bite comes with a price. You can feel the eyes on you, the silent tally of the great gravy debate being scored in every corner booth. The table next to you, 2 old men with decades of fries between them, finally speaks. "You from Canada, son?" one asks, half teasing, half serious. "No, sir, just thought I'd try something new." There's a long pause. He nods, slow and grave. "Well, it's your funeral. You realise this is more than just lunch. It's an act of cross-border diplomacy." When you're finished, Dolores clears your plate with a wink. "Don't worry, I won't tell." But as you pay your bill, you notice the regulars giving you that look. The one reserved for people who ask for unsweet tea or bring their own mug. You are, for now and forever, the gravy guy. Your legend will grow. Maybe in a few years someone else will get brave. Maybe there will be a secret menu. But for now, you walk out into the sunlight, a pioneer in a land that doesn't want pioneering. Behind you, Dolores closes the black book, at least until the next heretic strolls in, hungry for fries and a little adventure. You bring in a copy of The Catcher in the Rye and leave it visible. Immediately a sense of unease settles over the crowd. This is a place for newspapers, crossword puzzles, and maybe a dog-eared Hardy Boys mystery. Literature? That's for the Beatnik Cafe down the street. It's not that the townsfolk are anti-reading. Far from it. They love a good Dear Abby column, devour the Sunday comics, and have strong opinions on which local columnist is most likely to have once seen the mayor without his hat. But your copy of Salinger's novel, its crimson cover bold and unrepentant, is a scandal in hardcover. This isn't a book you sneak in between bites of toast. This is a declaration of intellectual independence. Dolores, master of ceremonies and arbiter of taste, spots the book from 3 booths away. She's seen magazines, Reader's Digest, and the occasional Western. But modern literature, that's new territory, dangerous, existential, possibly French. She approaches your booth, coffee pot in hand, and gives you the once-over. Not your shoes, not your shirt, but the paperback perched next to your salt shaker. New in town, she asks, though what she means is, are you about to incite a philosophical revolution over scrambled eggs? You smile and nod, pretending not to notice the regulars craning their necks for a better look. The older gentlemen in the corner lower their newspapers and whisper to each other, something about kids today and all those ideas. A mother quickly steers her children toward the colouring placemats, just in case your existential angst is contagious. You sip your coffee, flipping to page 23, hoping for a moment's peace. But in this diner, privacy is a group activity. A farmer at the next booth leans over and says, "What's that you're reading there, son?" You show him the cover. He squints, reads the title, and makes a sound halfway between confusion and polite horror. "Not a Hardy Boys?" he asks. "Not this time," you reply, hoping the universe will move on. But it doesn't. Dolores reappears, bearing a plate of pancakes and a warning, "Don't go reading anything too sad now. It ruins the syrup." The cook pokes his head out, wiping his hands on his apron. "I tried to read something fancy once," he announces to the room. "Gave me a headache for a week." Laughter erupts, warm and comfortable, the sound of a community re-establishing normalcy. You realise with each turn of the page that your book isn't just reading material, it's a conversation starter, a mild threat, a minor act of civil disobedience. In another era, you'd be the person at Starbucks writing a screenplay. Here you're the book kid, the one who brought Catcher in the Rye to a place that considers Nancy Drew avant-garde. The more you read, the more questions you get. "What's it about?" asks Dolores, refilling your cup. "Is it a romance?" "Sort of," you say, uncertainly. A teenager slides into the booth across from you. "Is it about spies?" You shake your head. He frowns, disappointed. Eventually, someone asks if they'll make a movie of it, and you shrug. Probably. They make movies out of everything. As you pay your check, Dolores gives you a wink. "Next time, try the funnies. They go better with pie." You grin, promising nothing. Outside, you tuck your book away. You've survived your first brush with literary infamy. Maybe you'll bring Hemingway next time, or maybe you'll play it safe with the morning paper. But in the lore of the diner, you're now the one who read Salinger before noon. Not a rebel exactly, but a curiosity. And that's enough to keep your coffee poured, your pancakes hot, and your legend growing with every whispered retelling. Dolores asks where you're from, what you do, and if you're married. You try to just eat in peace. Sorry, pal. In the 1950s diner, silence is suspicious. Social interaction is compulsory, and anyone not participating is viewed with grave concern. It starts innocently enough. You're halfway through your eggs, toast cooling nicely, when Dolores sidles over, refilling your coffee with all the nonchalance of a seasoned interrogator. "So, where you from?" she asks, and you mutter something vague. "Out of town." Maybe you give a nod and a thin smile, hoping she'll move on. She doesn't. Not in a 1950s diner. Not on her watch. Small talk is more than a social nicety here. It's the grease that keeps the whole operation running smoother than a fresh batch of hash browns. The people in this room have known each other for years, sometimes generations. They can recite each other's birthdays, anniversaries, and preferred cholesterol levels by heart. When a stranger arrives, silence isn't mysterious. It's menacing. It's as if you've walked into a living room and refused to wipe your feet. "Passing through, huh?" Dolores presses, feigning casual interest, but her eyes don't blink. "What brings you here? Work, family, trouble?" You're not sure what to say, so you chew slowly, stalling for time. The other patrons, sensing the tension, lower their newspapers and tune in. Even the cook has paused his griddle symphony, spatula poised in midair. You feel the heat of collective curiosity. You try to take refuge in your food, but it's no use. The diner's atmosphere thickens. In this place, everyone is expected to participate in the daily ritual of chit-chat. There's a reason the counter curves, so the conversation can make a full lap. You, the silent outsider, are the missing link in this chain of casual, relentless friendliness. Dolores is relentless. "You married?" she asks, pen hovering over her pad, as if your answer will decide whether you get your pie warm or cold, and if you're not careful, with a side of judgment. "Kids?" she follows up. "What's your line of work?" You answer in monosyllables, hoping the barrage will end. It doesn't. If anything, it encourages further investigation. The regulars are now openly invested. "I bet he's a salesman," whispers Old Man Harper to his neighbour. "No. Look at those shoes. He's a teacher. Someone else counters." You, the subject of a minor inquisition, are suddenly aware that your quiet demeanour is being interpreted as secretive, suspicious, possibly subversive. Dolores leans in. "Don't worry, hun. We're all friends here. For now." You want to explain that you're just not a morning person, or that in your hometown, breakfast is a solitary meditative affair best conducted with minimal human contact. But that doesn't fly in this time and place. Here, eating alone is like refusing to clap at a parade, strange, rude, and in need of gentle correction. By now, even the jukebox seems quieter, as if awaiting your confessional. You're not being interrogated so much as gently coaxed back into the fold of civilization. A small-town diner isn't just a restaurant. It's a living organism, and every person's story is a cell in its constantly regenerating heart. To withhold your story is to clog an artery. The community, sensing blockage, sends its best platelets, Dolores, the cook, the regulars, to nudge you into conversation. Eventually you relent, offering a detail or two. "Travelling for work," you say. "Not married, no kids, just passing through." A chorus of arse I see rolls around the room, like a gentle breeze. The tension dissipates. Dolores nods, satisfied, and slides you an extra napkin. Balance is restored. The diner hums again with the soothing sound of safe, shared information. You realise as you finish your meal that you've passed a test. Not of character, but of openness. In the 1950s diner, everyone's business is everybody's business, and silence is just another way of saying you don't belong. Next time, maybe you'll come prepared with a story, or at least a convincing cover. You grab a fistful of napkins, maybe too many. You're not just cleaning up spilled coffee, you're depleting the natural resources of the entire community. The penalty, a public shaming and the removal of all condiments from your table. It starts innocently enough. A little splash of coffee, maybe a wayward glob of jelly, and you reach for the napkin holder. But something comes over you. Perhaps it's nerves, perhaps it's a modern sense of abundance, but you yank out a stack, 6, 7, 8 napkins at once. The motion is fluid, almost reflexive. Before you know it, you're holding a wad big enough to dry the Hudson River. Dolores, always attuned to the minor emergencies of diner life, spots the infraction before you even realise what you've done. Her eyebrows go up, her lips purse, and suddenly the room's attention seems to tilt in your direction. Old Man Harper lowers his newspaper. The kid with the colouring book pauses mid-crayon. Even the cook peers out from behind the pass, spatula drooping. In a 1950s diner, napkins are precious, finite, and sacred, like gold, but more absorbent. You try to play it off, dabbing at your spill with the grace of a person who totally intended to use a third of the restaurant's yearly napkin supply on a single coffee drip. But the damage is done. The stack of crumpled paper on your plate is a monument to excess, a pyramid built on the bones of frugality. Dolores sidles over, slow and deliberate, her footsteps echoing off the checkered linoleum. She doesn't scold. She doesn't have to. Instead, she does something far worse. She announces, in a voice as clear as church bells, "Looks like we got a real messmaker at table 5. A ripple of laughter spreads through the room, but it's the kind that stings just a little. "Save some for the rest of us," someone chimes in. "What's next? You taking the salt shakers home?" You smile sheepishly, wishing for the power of invisibility. You hadn't realised napkins were a communal resource, portioned out like ration cards during the war. But now you're the poster child for waste. Dolores, true to diner justice, removes the napkin holder from your table. It's done with a flourish, part performance, part warning to others. She replaces it with a single solitary napkin. Folded neatly, and placed at the exact centre of your plate. "Let's see how you do with just the one," she says, her eyes twinkling. The room erupts in another round of good-natured teasing, but you know the difference between a laugh and a lesson. Suddenly, every condiment feels risky. You hesitate before reaching for the ketchup, lest you spark a new round of public trial. You dab at your mouth with your single allotted napkin, careful not to tear it, already regretting the reckless abandon of your earlier napkin binge. The table next to you adopts you as a cautionary tale. My ma always said, "One napkin is plenty if you eat like a gentleman," an elderly regular tells his grandson, who nods solemnly and tucks his napkin into his shirt. You finish your meal with the air of a reformed sinner. Dolores returns the napkin holder at the end, but only after you promise, loudly and publicly, to use them sparingly in the future. "We're all in this together," she says, "and that includes the napkins." The regulars nod, the cook salutes you with his spatula, and balance is restored to the universe. The lesson is clear. In the diner, as in life, abundance is an illusion, and every napkin counts. Use only what you need, leave plenty for others, and whatever you do, don't give Dolores an excuse to test your resourcefulness with a single square. You admit, truthfully, that you're just passing through. This is a cardinal sin. The regulars have been eating here since Truman was president, and drifters aren't to be trusted. You're watched for suspicious behaviour, such as ordering the chef's salad. It all happens so fast. Dolores asks you where you're from, as she always does, and you, perhaps in a moment of naive honesty, answer, "Just passing through." The temperature in the room drops a few degrees. The clinking of forks on plates halts. In a town where everybody's family tree forks into every other table, "just passing through" is a phrase reserved for mysterious salesmen, big city folk, and people who might be fleeing from something, possibly justice, possibly bad diner etiquette. You try to act normal. You order coffee, maybe a slice of pie, but you can feel it, the scrutiny. The regulars have an extra sense for unfamiliar faces, and yours just lit up the radar. They take stock. Your jacket is too new, your shoes are too clean, your eyes dart around the room as if searching for the exits or, worse, Yelp reviews. A couple of old-timers in the corner booth start a whispered debate about which out-of-towner you most resemble. "He looks like that fella from Des Moines. Remember him?" "Nah, too polite. Probably from Omaha." You try to blend in by scanning the menu. That's when you make your second mistake. You consider ordering the chef's salad. Dolores's eyebrow arches. Around here, salads are for funerals, and anything with more than 2 vegetables is viewed as an elaborate cover for unsavoury intentions. You pivot quickly, settling on a burger, but the seed of suspicion has already sprouted. As you sip your coffee, the regulars watch for more signs. You don't know the local gossip, the names of the softball team, or who just fixed the clock on Main Street. You don't ask for the usual, because of course you have no usual. When the jukebox plays, you don't know which songs are for mornings only, or when to join in on the chorus of Blueberry Hill. You butter your toast too liberally. You ask for extra napkins, strike 2. You try small talk, hoping to show you mean no harm, but your questions about the weather, the local landmarks, the best fishing spot are a dead giveaway. The regulars answer politely, but with that gentle suspicion reserved for people who don't quite belong. Even the cook sizes you up, glancing at Dolores for confirmation before flipping your burger. Dolores, who's seen more transients than a Greyhound station, keeps one eye on you and one on the door. At the table next to you, a child tugs her father's sleeve and whispers, "Is he a stranger?" Her father nods solemnly. "He'll be gone by lunch," he assures her, as if you're a mild but passing storm. Even the local dog, usually friendly to a fault, pauses at your feet, sniffs your shoes and moves along. Despite the chilly reception, you persist. You eat your meal, leave a generous tip, and offer a friendly thank you on your way out. Dolores gives you a nod, a small silent acknowledgement that, while you may be a stranger, you're a polite one. Outside, the sun feels brighter. You survived the diner as an out-of-towner, and that's no small feat. Later, after you're gone, your legend will grow. "Remember that guy who ordered coffee and almost got the chef's salad," they'll say. "Didn't even try to sell us insurance." Your story will join the ranks of the wandering, slightly suspicious souls who pass through, never quite fitting in, but never quite forgotten. And somewhere, in a little notebook behind the counter, Dolores adds your name, out-of-town offender. Not a regular, but part of the diner's ever-expanding mythology. You try to flirt with the waitress. Unfortunately, so does everyone else, and Dolores has heard every line in the book. She deals out bands like a blackjack dealer, quick, silent, and with a look that says, "Not today, Romeo." It starts innocently enough. Maybe it's the glint of the chrome, the hush of the morning crowd, or the way Dolores balances 6 coffee cups in one hand while scolding the cook in the other. You think, now's my moment. You flash what you hope is a charming grin. Hey there. When you're not making coffee, are you breaking hearts? It lands with a thud, a dull thud, like a dropped meatloaf on linoleum. Dolores doesn't even flinch. She's fielded more romantic advances than a movie star at a USO show. Over the years, she's heard every possible permutation of, "What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this?" She's seen lines so corny they could be canned and served with the blue plate special. Sometimes she humours the flirt. She'll laugh, pour you another cup and move along. But this morning, you're not the first and you won't be the last. She's not here for games. The regulars notice immediately. In a small-town diner, nothing is private. Old man Harper in his sacred stool gives you a side-eye, all while not missing a beat in his crossword. A couple of teenagers snicker in the corner booth, one mouth struck out again to his friend. The cook raises his spatula in salute, another brave soul gone to breakfast purgatory. Dolores, always composed, gives you her signature stare. Part exhaustion, part bemusement, all business. She leans in, her voice a stage whisper only you can hear. "Honey, I've had better offers from the bread truck." She refills your coffee anyway, as if to say, "Let's pretend that never happened." But the punishment comes in subtler ways. Your order takes a few minutes longer. The pie à la mode comes with a little less ice cream. Your water glass is never quite full. You quickly realise that Dolores' world has rules, unwritten but ironclad. Waitresses are not here for your daydreams. They are professionals, generals in the daily battle against hunger, exhaustion, and coffee stains. They don't have time to listen to your best lines, especially when every other customer thinks they're the one exception. There's a long, proud tradition of diner flirtation, sure. The hopeful travellers, the lonely salesman, the bored regulars trying to impress the new waitress with tales of their high school football glory. Dolores has watched them all come and go. She's endured whistles, winks, clumsy invitations to the harvest dance. Sometimes she'll give a good-natured wink right back if she's feeling generous. But cross the line, push too far, or just bore her with bad material, and you'll find yourself iced out faster than a root beer float. Your ban isn't official, no one makes an announcement, but you feel it. The polite chill, the way Dolores slides your plate onto the table instead of setting it down with care, the way she greets the next customer with a bigger smile. The regulars resume their conversations, but you know your misstep will live in their memories, trotted out every time someone else gets ideas above their station. Remember that one guy? Thought he could charm Dolores, didn't even get a refill. You finish your meal, tip well out of pure guilt, and vow never to mistake good service for an invitation again. Dolores gives you a professional nod as you leave, a little reminder. In this kingdom of coffee, she's the one holding court, and as the door jingles behind you, you're already yesterday's news. The next hopeful approaches the counter, rehearsing a line, and the cycle continues. But you'll be telling your friends for years. I once tried to flirt with Dolores. She's the only woman I know who can banish you with just a look and keep the coffee coming while she does. You asked for pancakes after 11 a.m. The cook's spatula hovers in mid-air. We stop serving breakfast at 11 sharp. You ask, but what if, and are met with the sort of silence reserved for public executions. In the world of the 1950s diner, there are rules, written and unwritten, but few are more sacred than the breakfast cutoff. 11 o'clock isn't just a time on the wall clock, it's a line in the sand, a point of no return. Before that, the griddle is a magical landscape. Rivers of batter, islands of sausage, clouds of eggs, all managed with balletic precision. After 11, the breakfast gods clock out, and you're left in the harsh light of the lunch menu. When you ask for pancakes at 11:07, you don't just break a rule. You challenge the very rhythm of diner life. Dolores, caught between compassion and policy, gives you a look that says, I wish I could help, but I also wish I could eat ice cream for breakfast. The regulars, never ones to miss a spectacle, lower their newspapers and lean in, waiting to see if you're about to spark a kitchen mutiny or just be quietly led out back. The cook, who has flipped more pancakes than the International House of, slowly sets down his spatula, wiping his hands on his apron as he sizes you up. There's a pause, pregnant with meaning. filled with the ghosts of all the pancakes that might have been. We got burgers, we got BLTs, we got soup, he says, reciting the lunch liturgy. But the pancakes are done for the day. You, hungry and perhaps a little stubborn, try to negotiate. Isn't there any batter left? Just one pancake. You're met with silence so dense it could be sliced with a butter knife. Dolores shakes her head, sympathetic but firm. If we make one for you, we'd have to make one for everyone. It's the diner's version of the butterfly effect. One rogue flapjack and the whole system collapses. The lunch crowd is now deeply invested. Old Man Harper mutters, "Back in my day, you ate breakfast at breakfast." A mother at the next table glares, probably worried her kids will get any wild ideas about pancakes at all hours. Even the soda jerk looks up from his root beer floats, eager to witness what happens to breakfast revolutionaries. It's not that they don't understand your craving. Everyone at some point has wanted breakfast for lunch or dinner or both. But the diner world is built on order, rituals and routines as predictable as sunrise. Pancakes after 11? That's anarchy. That's asking the cook to step outside his cosmic role and risk upsetting the delicate balance of griddle-based harmony. Dolores offers you a compromise. How about a slice of pie? That's sort of like breakfast. It's got fruit. You consider it, realizing that the best you'll get now is an apple pie with a side of wistful regret. You order the pie and coffee and peace settles over the room. The cook goes back to the grill, the regulars return to their meals, and Dolores pats your shoulder with a smile that says, "You'll know better next time." From then on, your story precedes you. That's the one who tried to get pancakes after 11, people whisper. It's not a mark of shame, exactly, but a gentle warning to future generations. Respect the rules, honour the schedule, and whatever you do, don't ask for breakfast after breakfast hours. You learn to arrive early, your appetite shaped by the unyielding timetable of the diner gods. Because here, pancakes are for mornings, lunch is for sandwiches, and the griddle's magic obeys only the ticking clock. You leave your tip before the meal. Amateurs. In the 1950s diner, tipping is a ceremonial act that must happen after the last drop of coffee, never before. To do otherwise is to risk eternal banishment, or worse, tepid coffee forever. It's your first time in this particular greasy spoon, and you want to do everything right. Maybe you've read an etiquette book. Maybe you just want to avoid another stare from Dolores, the all-seeing, all-knowing waitress. So you slip a few bills under your water glass, smile confidently and think, now they'll know I'm a generous soul. Wrong. In the 1950s, that's the equivalent of applauding in the middle of the national anthem, or bringing your own ketchup to the table, unthinkable and certain to get you exiled to the realm of strange city folk. Dolores sees it instantly. She doesn't react, not at first, but her eyebrow arches in a way that's been known to curdle milk. She moves through the room with purpose, ignoring your table just long enough for the regulars to notice. You feel a subtle shift in the air, whispers from the booth behind you, the cook peering through the pass, the soda jerk giving you a sympathetic shake of the head. The thing is, in the sacred order of the 1950s diner, tipping isn't just a transaction. It's the last rite of the meal. It happens only after you've drained your cup, finished your pie, and declared your plate clean. The tip is a wordless thank you, a closing of the circle, the thing that assures Dolores her service was worthy and that the universe remains in balance. To tip before is to question the system. It's like handing the Oscar to the actor before the movie's finished. It suggests you're trying to buy favour, or worse, escape early. You notice your coffee gets cold on purpose. Your toast takes a suspiciously long detour on its way to your table. Dolores, usually the definition of warmth, is all business, gliding past you with a polite but chilly efficiency. When you ask for more cream, it appears 10 minutes later, along with a fresh cup, but the look that comes with it could peel paint. The regulars lean in, eager to watch the drama unfold. "He tipped before he even tried the pie," whispers Old Man Harper, shaking his head in disbelief. "Shows a lack of confidence," says the lady with the floral hat. "Or maybe he's in a hurry," offers another. You want to explain, to plead your case, but there's no court for this kind of crime, only the relentless judgment of breakfast society. You do your best to salvage things. You eat slowly, hoping for forgiveness. You ask Dolores for recommendations, try a joke, even compliment her coffee. She softens just a bit when you ask for a slice of the lemon meringue. Maybe there's hope, but you know your status has changed. You're the tipper. Your legend will outlast your appetite. When you finally do finish, you're stuck. Do you tip again? Do you collect the original bills and pretend nothing happened? Either move feels dangerous, like a second attempt at jumping the breakfast shark. You settle for adding a single quarter beside the plate, just enough to signal you've learned your lesson. Dolores gives you a tiny nod as you leave. The regulars return to their crossword puzzles, peace restored. You step out into the sunlight, wiser, chastened and determined. Next time, the tip comes last. Like all good things. In the land of the bottomless cup, respect the ritual, or prepare to drink your coffee lukewarm and alone. You let your kids roam free between tables. Chaos ensues. Fries are scattered. The jukebox is pressed into random song, and you're suddenly on the receiving end of the infamous Dolores death stare. In the 1950s, kids sit, eat, and remain silent. Or else. You thought a diner was a place of simple, family-friendly chaos, a space where the clatter of plates and the hiss of the griddle might drown out the sound of a bored child or two. Maybe you remember your own childhood, piling into the back of the station wagon hoping for a chocolate shake and the promise of a few harmless laps around the coat rack. But in this diner, in this era, the unspoken expectation is clear. Children are to be seen, not heard, and ideally not even seen unless they're eating quietly and nodding at every adult like tiny mute diplomats. It starts off innocently. Your youngest slips away while you butter a roll. The eldest, emboldened, slides out after her, and within 30 seconds you've got a two-child parade snaking its way past Dolores's feet and right into a minefield of tray-carrying waitresses. The littlest one finds the sugar packets and begins to build a miniature Leaning Tower of Pisa. The older one, hungry for adventure, manages to press enough buttons on the jukebox to unleash an unholy medley. Perry Como meets Bill Haley in a sonic collision that will haunt this breakfast crowd for weeks. Dolores, who has weathered 3 generations of local children, stops cold. Her face does not betray anger. It is something worse, disappointment seasoned with disbelief, marinated in experience. You've entered the realm of the Dolores death stare. It isn't loud, but it's so powerful that your kids freeze mid-giggle, suddenly aware they're in the presence of diner royalty. Across the room, the regulars take note. Old Man Harper pauses with his coffee halfway to his lips. The mother in the corner booth, herself a former wild child, gives you a look of pity and a whisper. She's never going to let you order dessert. The cook glares out from the pass, spatula clenched, ready to declare martial law. You spring into action, corralling your kids with apologies and promises of a future filled with vegetables and early bedtimes. You threaten, you bribe, you beg. But the damage is done. Fries underfoot, napkins scattered, the jukebox groaning through a mashup that no mortal should ever hear. Dolores approaches. She leans down, speaking not just to your kids, but to every child, past, present, and future. Darlings, she says, voice sweet as pancake syrup but as heavy as a 10-pound skillet. In this place, we eat at the table, we keep our feet on the floor, and we let the grown-ups talk. The children, properly cowed, nod solemnly. She gives you a look that says, this is your one chance. You know you've been granted a mercy. For the rest of the meal, your kids sit rigidly, chewing in unison, hands folded as if attending a very stern church service. The regulars relax. Dolores rewards you with an extra scoop of ice cream for the table, peace restored, but not without cost. As you leave, you thank Dolores. She gives you a small, approving nod, a benediction for reformed parents everywhere. The kids wave goodbye, now true believers in the gospel of diner discipline. Your lesson is clear. In the 1950s diner, chaos is for the kitchen, not the dining room. Children sit, children eat, and children survive to return another day, so long as they remain on the right side of the counter and the right side of Dolores. You ask for a vegan malt. The world stops spinning. There are only 2 kinds of malt, chocolate and vanilla, and both contain enough dairy to take down a small horse. Dolores ushers you out before you can explain the concept of almond milk. For a moment it feels like all oxygen has left the room. The jukebox skips. The regulars freeze mid-bite, forks suspended like tuning forks tuned to the key of, what did they just say? In a 1950s diner, a malt is sacred. It's more than a beverage. It's a rite of passage, a nostalgia-fueled milk and sugar time machine poured into a frosted glass. There is no deviation from the formula, no substitutions for the substitutions. Milk is whole, ice cream is double churned, and the vegan concept is as foreign as Martian radio signals. You try to clarify. No dairy, please. Maybe just, plant milk. Dolores's jaw tightens. Plant milk? She's seen a lot in her day. Greasers, jukebox vandals, people who order the chef's salad for breakfast, but this is a first. The cook stops refilling the fryer, sensing that the natural order of things is under threat. The soda jerk, usually a champion of innovation, looks genuinely wounded. You feel the eyes of the entire establishment on you, silently tallying your transgression in the great book of diner sins. Dolores draws herself up to her full 5'4", somehow casting a shadow that blots out the neon sign. Sweetheart. A malt is ice cream, milk, and malt powder. Anything else is a milkshake, or a mistake. She turns to the cook for backup. He shrugs. We got 2 kinds, chocolate and vanilla, both with more cow in them than the barn out back. You try to salvage things. Just a chocolate shake then, but with no dairy. Dolores shakes her head, gently but firmly. Honey, if it doesn't moo, we don't serve it. The regulars nod, satisfied that justice has been served. A mother at the end of the counter leans over to her child, whispering, This is why we say grace before meals. You begin to suspect you're about to be offered a glass of water and a Bible. The soda jerk, eager to help but bound by the code, offers a conciliatory gesture. Want a cherry on top? He asks, hope in his eyes. You sigh, resigning yourself to a glass of root beer. Straight up, no ice. Even that feels like a dangerous request now. As you sip your backup beverage, the conversation slowly resumes. Dolores glides by, placing a chocolate malt, full dairy, extra whipped cream, in front of a teenager with a varsity jacket. She gives you a quick, sympathetic glance. Not cruel, just puzzled, like a museum curator gently guiding a visitor away from the Do Not Touch sign. There's a lesson in all this. You can bring your newfangled ideas, your almond milks and oat creams, but some places are resistant to change. The diner lives in the comfort of its rituals, its old recipes, and its perfectly calibrated ratios of dairy to nostalgia. The regulars wouldn't have it any other way. When you leave, Dolores sees you out with a polite, "Come back any time, hun." But next time, try the vanilla. It'll put hair on your chest. The door jingles behind you, and the world resumes its natural order. The malt machine hums on, churning out tradition by the glassful undisturbed. Out on the sidewalk, you breathe deeply. You've survived the malt mishap. Maybe you'll try again in a few decades, when almond milk has conquered the world and malts are served with a side of kale. Until then, you'll remember. In the 1950s diner, the only thing vegan is the napkin. You ask to take your leftovers home. The cook looks hurt, like you've insulted his honour. In the 50s, portions are just right. Leaving food behind is a personal affront to America and the ghost of Betty Crocker. It starts with your innocent request. Could I get a box for this? The room goes quiet, eerily so, as if someone just mentioned the word rationing during the dessert course. Dolores pauses, her notepad hovering in midair, the tip of her pen frozen just above the carbon copy. The cook, a man whose pride is measured in empty plates and satisfied sighs, peers out from behind the pass, eyes narrowed in disbelief. You try to explain, maybe you just had a big lunch, maybe you're saving room for pie, maybe your modern sensibilities are offended by the idea of waste. But here, in the hallowed halls of the 1950s diner, the expectation is clear. You finish what you're given. Plates arrive full but never overwhelming. It's a subtle art, portioning, enough to fill but not enough to defeat. To leave anything behind is to call the cook's judgment into question, to suggest that perhaps his mother didn't teach him how to measure out a serving. Dolores leans in, her voice low and sweet, but edged with warning. You didn't like it, hun? She asks, eyes locked on the half-eaten sandwich and lone fry left standing like survivors after a battle. You stammer your defence. No, it was delicious. Just a bit much, that's all. Her lips purse. The cook is still watching. The regulars lean closer, ready for the spectacle. A mother at the next table whispers to her son, "We clean our plates, don't we, Tommy?" Tommy, eyes wide, nods vigorously, clutching his grilled cheese as if it's about to be snatched away. Even the soda jerk looks up from rinsing glasses, awaiting the outcome of your culinary trial. In 1950s America, the clean plate is more than a habit. It's a virtue, practically a moral law. Wartime rationing isn't that far in the past, and memories of the Depression still linger in cautious appetites and tight-lipped advice. Wasting food is unthinkable. To take food home, as if admitting you couldn't handle it all in one heroic sitting, is to expose your unworthiness in front of the pie case and worse, in front of Betty Crocker herself. But you hold your ground. I just don't want to waste it, you say, hoping for mercy. Dolores weighs your fate. Well, I suppose we can wrap it up for you, she finally concedes. But the words come slowly, as if she's translating them from another language. She disappears into the kitchen and returns with a humble sheet of wax paper. No fancy boxes here. She folds your leftovers with care, her hands moving with the resignation of a priest performing a funeral for a perfectly good meatloaf. You can feel the eyes on you as you slip the package into your bag. The regulars shake their heads, some in sympathy, others in bemused disappointment. The cook returns to his grill, shaking his head in disbelief. Never happened in my day, he mutters, but you catch a glimmer of a smile. Maybe it's relief. Maybe he appreciates the effort, even if you broke the code. As you leave, Dolores gives you a final nod, a benediction, or perhaps a warning not to make a habit of it. You step out, leftovers in hand, carrying not just a sandwich but the weight of 1,000 full plates behind you. Later, your story will join diner folklore. Remember that one, they'll say. Took his dinner home. Wonder if he ever came back for breakfast. And maybe you will. Next time you'll clean your plate, or at least you'll wait until Dolores isn't looking before you ask for a doggy bag. You light a cigarette at the wrong end of the counter, or worse, in the non-smoking section. There's an invisible line and you just crossed it. Even the smokers glare at you. You're now banished to the curb along with your camels. It's the 1950s, the age of smoky jukebox corners and ashtrays as common as salt shakers. But even here, there's an unspoken order to it all. The diner itself is a patchwork of invisible borders, booths for families, counter for the regulars, and a small slice of territory at the end, under the ceiling fan, for those who wish to puff away while discussing the ball game. Dolores has marked out the smoking section, with all the precision of a general laying battle lines. There are no signs, just a deeply understood choreography of habit and social contract. So when you strike a match at the wrong end of the counter, say too close to the pies, or within sniffing distance of the milkshake machine, a tension zings through the room. The regulars at the counter stop mid-slurp. Dolores, coffee pot in hand, spins on her heel. You have committed a faux pas more serious than ordering cold pie or pouring your own refill. Here, cigarette protocol is law. A couple of old-timers in the corner glance up, cigarettes dangling from their lips. Even they seem offended by your breach. Not by the cakes, son, one grumbles, flicking a perfectly executed ash into his tray. The family with the colouring books in the booth shifts, making a show of fanning the air, never mind that Dad will light up the second he gets outside. The cook, a smoker himself, raises a spatula and points you silently to the door. You're not a criminal, at least not until today. Maybe you thought, hey, everyone smoked in the 50s, right? You'd be correct, but you'd also be missing the point. The rules weren't about health. Not really. They were about order, decency, and keeping the lemon meringue from tasting like Lucky Strikes. Everyone was welcome to indulge, but only in the sacred spaces, never near the fresh donuts or Dolores's clean napkin stash. You realise, with growing horror, that you've triggered a minor cultural crisis. Dolores appears at your side, moving with swift, silent efficiency. "Honey," she says, voice laced with the deadly calm of a kindergarten teacher on her last nerve. "We don't smoke by the counter, not since the fire of '49. The regulars chuckle, but the laughter is a warning. This is your one chance. You stub your cigarette, abashed. Dolores produces a saucer from nowhere and gestures to the back corner, if you must, by the fan. The exile is complete. You shuffle to your designated spot, the walk of shame softened only slightly by a sympathetic pat on the shoulder from the soda jerk. The smokers eye you, half approving, half resentful. You've invaded their turf after all, they make space, but not much. It's a small, smoky fraternity bound by mutual understanding and mutual exclusion. You nod, make small talk, and hope to be forgiven. Your punishment, such as it is swift but fair. For the rest of your visit, you get the lesser refills, the smaller slice of pie. The message is clear. Respect the invisible lines, or risk becoming a story. The tale of the counter smoker will echo in this diner long after the smell has faded from the curtains. You finish your meal, drop a tip, and step out onto the curb, lighting up in the open air. The world feels larger, colder, and strangely liberating. Next time, you'll keep to your corner, blow your smoke under the fan, and honour the ancient rituals, because in the diner, everyone knows the rules, even if no one writes them down. You slurp your soup loudly, head swivel. Slurping is for noodle shops in distant lands, not for grandma's chicken noodle. Dolores places your check silently on the table with a look that says, "You know what you did." At first you don't even realise the magnitude of your error. Maybe you're lost in the moment, transported by the steamy aroma of Dolores's famous chicken noodle. Or maybe you just came from a place where slurping is a compliment, a way to show the chef you appreciate their work. But in this 1950s diner, the rules are different, the stakes are high, and every spoonful is supposed to be enjoyed in near-sacred silence. The first slurp is innocent. You savour the broth, letting it linger before pulling it in with a long, contented inhale. But as soon as that sound escapes, it cuts through the diner like a record scratch. The regulars freeze mid-bite, spoon suspended, toast halfway to lips. Even the ever-chatty soda jerk halts his banter with the high schoolers at the counter. It's as if the entire place is tuned to the frequency of, "Who just did that?" Dolores doesn't need to say a word. Her presence materializes at your elbow, check in hand, an unspoken signal that your presence here has reached its logical conclusion. She sets it down with the care of a judge delivering a verdict. You glance up, searching for mercy, but Dolores's eyes say only, "We don't slurp. Not here, not ever." Across the room, the regulars begin their silent post-mortem. Old Man Harper raises an eyebrow, silently passing judgment from behind his newspaper. A mother hushes her kids, "Eat quietly, or you'll end up like that one." Even the cook peeks out, face masked in disbelief, as though you've just salted your soup with an actual crime. You try to play it cool, hoping the sound went unnoticed. But every subsequent spoonful is fraught with peril. You dab at your mouth with a napkin, chewing as quietly as possible. It doesn't matter. The deed is done, and your table is now a no-fly zone for further conversation. The soda jerk, sensing the tension, slips you a glass of water and a look of sympathy. "Don't worry," he murmurs. "Dolores will forget. Eventually." Soup in the 1950s diner isn't just a meal, it's an institution. Every bowl is a tribute to mothers and grandmothers, to the gentle art of comfort food. It is to be sipped, not sucked down like ramen on a cold night in Tokyo. Here, restraint is a virtue. The only thing meant to make noise at this hour is the bell announcing a new order. You try to make amends. You eat the rest of your soup in monastic silence, leaving not a drop behind. You tip generously, hoping money might soften the blow. Dolores gives you a nod as you leave. Not forgiveness exactly, but a small acknowledgement that you tried to set things right. As you step out, you catch the whispers, gentle, amused, but relentless. "That's the one who slurped his soup," someone says, and the legend begins. You've become a footnote in diner lore, a cautionary tale for future generations of soup eaters. Next time you vow, you'll savour each bite in reverent quiet. And maybe, just maybe, Dolores will serve you another bowl without the check arriving first. You attempt to mix every soda flavour together, creating the infamous graveyard. This is the 1950s, not a 6th grade birthday party. The soda jerk shakes his head, the regulars tut, and you're quietly encouraged never to return. It all starts with a little curiosity and a lot of mischief. Maybe you remember doing this as a kid, sneaking up to the soda fountain, slamming the levers, watching the technicolor swirl of cola, orange, lemon lime and root beer churn into one sugar-fueled Frankenstein's monster of a beverage. But here, in the polished, chrome-lace sanctum of the American diner, the rules are different. Soda isn't just a drink. It's a ritual, one flavour at a time, hand-mixed by the high priest behind the counter, the soda jerk. You slide onto the counter stool and flash your best "I've got an idea" grin. "I'll have a graveyard," you announce, with the confidence of a kid who's never seen the inside of the principal's office. The soda jerk, a wiry teen with a hat perched perfectly askew, pauses. He's heard rumours of this abomination. He's even seen it once or twice, but only during the rowdiest after-school rushes, never from an adult and never at this hour. "Are you sure?" he asks, hoping to steer you toward a respectable vanilla phosphate or a simple root beer float. But you nod. You want it all, the fizz, the colours, the chaos. He sighs. Across the diner, a hush settles. Dolores, mid-coffee pour, looks over the rim of her glasses, already bracing for trouble. With a resigned shake of his head, the soda jerk begins. One lever at a time, cola, lemon lime, orange, root beer, grape, and something labelled simply as special, he fills the tall glass. The result is a cloudy, ominous brown, fizzing with possibility and regret. He slides it across the counter. "Good luck," he mutters. You take your first sip. Instantly, your taste buds launch a full-scale revolt. The flavours clash and combine in ways nature never intended, sweet, tart, bitter, and suspiciously medicinal all at once. You try to play it cool, but your face does something that causes even Old Man Harper to peer over his paper. A kid at the end of the counter leans in, whispering, "My cousin tried that once. Didn't finish it." The regulars, veterans of 1,000 burgers and 1,000,000 coffee refills, look on with a mixture of concern and silent judgment. They're not angry, they're just disappointed. In their day, you picked a favourite and stuck with it. Loyalty to cola or orange was as serious as your football team allegiance. Mixing flavours? That's not boldness, that's heresy. Dolores shakes her head, a small, almost pitying smile on her lips. As you struggle through the second sip, you realise your mistake. There's a reason tradition survives. Some things are best left unmixed. The soda jerk, seeing your distress, offers you a glass of water and a way out. "No shame in quitting," he says quietly. You nod, surrendering the graveyard glass after just a few mouthfuls. The lesson spreads quickly. By dessert, everyone in the diner has heard about the graveyard incident. The story will be told for weeks, a warning to curious souls and rebellious spirits alike. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. As you pay your bill, Dolores leans in. "Stick to one flavour next time, hun. Your stomach and your reputation will thank you." You leave, the taste of soda science still lingering, a little older and a lot wiser. In the land of the soda fountain, some experiments are best left to the kids. And in the world of the 1950s diner, respect for the classics is just good taste. You order a cheeseburger, hold the cheese. There's a pause so long it becomes existential. In a 1950s diner, this isn't just odd, it's sacrilege. Dolores makes a note in her ledger, banned for crimes against dairy. It's supposed to be a simple lunch, a burger, some fries, maybe a shake if you're feeling lucky. But with one small, fateful request, you bring the entire ecosystem of the diner to a screeching halt. The words "hold the cheese" hang in the air like a record scratch. Dolores blinks, momentarily unsure if she's heard correctly. At the counter, Old Man Harper lowers his coffee cup in slow motion, the better to hear the answer. "Did you mean hamburger?" Dolores tries, ever the professional, always hoping for a misunderstanding she can chalk up to an accent or a mouthful of toast. "No, cheeseburger, no cheese," you clarify, oblivious to the oncoming social storm. The cook, busy smashing patties on the griddle, freezes mid-sizzle. Even the soda jerk, usually unflappable, drops a maraschino cherry on the counter. It's not that cheese is required for all diners, far from it. There's a perfectly respectable hamburger sitting proud on the menu since the Hoover administration. But if you want a cheeseburger, you get cheese. The melted square of American draped over the patty is more than a topping, it's the ceremonial robe. To strip it away is to desecrate the altar. The regulars begin to buzz. "Why not just order a hamburger?" whispers the lady with the pearls, her voice a sharp staccato of confusion. "Maybe they're allergic," says another, desperate for a rational explanation. But it's no use. The request is too precise, too willful, to be anything but an intentional act of rebellion. Dolores, resigned, jots a note in her battered ledger, the unofficial record of diner misdeeds. Under ketchup on eggs and tipped before the meal, she adds, "Cheeseburger, no cheese." You sense you're not the first, but you suspect you'll be remembered. The cook, still muttering about the sanctity of dairy, scrapes the griddle with an extra bit of force. When your plate arrives, it is handled gently, like a peace offering or a bomb that needs careful disposal. The burger sits naked, free of its cheese blanket, exposed to the harsh fluorescent light. Dolores slides it toward you, gaze unreadable. Your first bite is met with silence. No one speaks. Across the room, a kid nudges his mum and whispers, "Can you do that?" She shushes him, as if even asking is dangerous. Even the radio seems to fade. The crooner's replaced by a collective diner hush. You try to make small talk, but it's no use. Your burger is now a statement piece, a protest, an edible manifesto. Dolores checks in. "Everything all right?" You nod, but she's already moved on, off to recount your culinary crime to the cook, who shakes his head sadly, as if mourning the loss of a generation's worth of cheese. As you pay, you leave an extra large tip, a small apology to the gods of American dairy. Dolores accepts it with a diplomatic smile, but you sense it'll take more than cash to cleanse your reputation. The regulars watch you go, some with pity, some with awe, some with, "That's the one," they'll say later. "Cheeseburger, no cheese." Bold, very bold. You leave the diner a little lighter, a little wiser, and a whole lot more infamous. In the world of the 1950s diner, some lines are not meant to be crossed, and most of them are made of cheese. You ask for extra syrup but commit the ultimate blunder. You pour it directly onto your sausage. In the 1950s, syrup is for pancakes and French toast, maybe waffles if you're feeling wild. But on meat, that's the sort of culinary chaos that makes the cook reconsider democracy. It begins as a harmless craving. Maybe you're from the future, where every brunch menu has maple-glazed bacon and salty-sweet combos are considered high art. Or maybe you're just bored, and the amber bottle is right there, within reach. You ask Dolores for extra syrup. She delivers it with a smile, more a question than an answer, because in this diner, syrup requests are simple: pour, swirl, devour. But what you do next is anything but simple. With a flourish, you upend the pitcher, unleashing a golden stream right onto your breakfast sausage links. The act is so bold, so unexpected, that even the clock on the wall seems to tick a little louder. The regulars stare in open-mouthed silence. Old Man Harper's hand freezes above his coffee, a tremor in his spoon. Dolores, ever the professional, goes still, eyes narrowed just slightly, as if considering whether to ring the dinner bell or the fire alarm. The cook, peering through the pass, witnesses the sticky spectacle. In his world, sausage comes with eggs, maybe a side of toast. Syrup, he reasons, is a condiment for carbohydrates, not carnivores. Your drizzle, so carefree, so unregulated, is an affront to years of tradition and the delicate balance of savoury and sweet that keeps the universe spinning. You sense the judgment, but you're undeterred. You cut a piece, fork and knife working in tandem, syrup pooling on the plate. You pop it in your mouth and wow, it's delicious, smoky, sweet, a perfect union. But you know better than to make a sound. Any sign of satisfaction would only deepen the scandal. Dolores finally breaks the silence. She leans in, her voice soft and measured. "You all right there, hun?" The question carries the weight of 100 years of breakfast law. You nod, swallowing hard, wondering if she'll confiscate the syrup bottle. Instead, she picks it up and tucks it behind the counter, a not-so-subtle reminder that privileges can be revoked. A kid at the next booth, eyes wide with awe, whispers, "Can you really do that?" His mother hushes him, shaking her head with all the certainty of a woman who survived the great syrup shortage of 53. "Not in this house," she says, and the lesson is cemented. The rest of your meal passes in uneasy quiet. Every forkful is a declaration of independence, every chew a tiny rebellion. The regulars go back to their routines, but every so often someone sneaks a glance your way, half judgment, half curiosity. Maybe you're a trendsetter, maybe you're a cautionary tale. As you pay your bill, Dolores gives you a look, not angry, but deeply contemplative. "Most folks keep the syrup on the pancakes," she says, more observation than scold. You apologise, but she waves you off. To each their own. Just don't let the cook see you do that again, or he'll start asking for hazard pay. You exit to the tinkle of the diner bell, the taste of sweet and savoury still lingering on your tongue. Out on the sidewalk, you realise you've done something radical, expanded the culinary boundaries just a little, for better or worse. Inside, the syrup returns to its rightful place beside the pancakes, but in the cook's mind, a dangerous idea has taken root. The next day, he'll eye the sausage with new suspicion, the syrup bottle with wary respect. And so, the story grows. The time someone dared to pour syrup on sausage, and the diner world kept turning. Just a little stickier than before. You request vinaigrette for your iceberg lettuce salad. The entire diner freezes. In 1954, there are only 3 salad dressings: Thousand Island, French, and something suspiciously labelled house. Anything else is a sign you're a subversive element, probably sent from New York. You don't mean to cause trouble. Maybe you just want something light. Maybe you saw it in a magazine. Or maybe you've just returned from a cosmopolitan adventure where vinaigrette flows as freely as jazz music. But when you utter those 4 syllables, vinaigrette, the world stops. Dolores, mid-scribble on her pad, cocks her head as if she's just heard a dog speak English. The regulars pause, forks hovering, eyes narrowing in suspicion. Even the soda jerk, halfway through a chocolate phosphate, sets his glass down slowly. You try to clarify, just, oil and vinegar? But that only deepens the mystery. Dolores raises an eyebrow so high it threatens to leave her forehead. "We got Thousand Island, French, or house," she says, her tone flat, her patience thinner than the lettuce on your plate. You ask about the house dressing, hoping for a hint of olive oil or balsamic. Dolores just shrugs. It's mostly mayo, sometimes with relish. Depends on the cook's mood. In the world of the 1950s diner, salad isn't meant to be healthy, just a vehicle for as much creamy, sweet or mysterious dressing as can cling to a pale leaf of iceberg. Vinaigrette, with its foreign-sounding name and lack of sugar, is an anomaly, an imported idea that carries the whiff of poetry readings and avant-garde paintings. The other diners begin to whisper. "Vinaigrette," mutters Old Man Harper, testing the word like a suspicious new bridge. "Sounds like something they eat in the city," says the lady in pearls, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "Or in France," her husband adds, as if Paris were a direct competitor of Peoria. Dolores stands her ground, wielding her pen like a tiny sword. "You want French? It's red and a little sweet. Good on the ham. You consider your options. Thousand Island is suspiciously pink, flecked with bits you can't identify. House seems to change colour every day." But vinaigrette, not on the menu, not in this era. As you hedge, Dolores turns to the kitchen, calling out your order with a tone that's half warning, half announcement. "Iceberg, no onions, dressing on the side." "No, not that kind. Just bring what we got." The cook looks out, eyes narrowed, taking the measure of the new element in the ecosystem. You're marked now, the one who asked for vinaigrette. Somewhere a local librarian shudders, sensing the disturbance in the force. Your salad arrives, a modest mound of iceberg, a tomato wedge, a single ring of red onion for colour. Dolores slides the dressing beside it, a little plastic cup filled with something orange and shiny, its surface trembling with possibility. "Try this, hun. It's French. Or close enough." You eat under scrutiny, each forkful a small act of bravery. The regulars watch for signs of conversion or collapse. The dressing tastes nothing like vinaigrette, but you smile gamely, grateful not to be run out of town for heresy. As you pay, Dolores gives you a wink. "Next time, try the house. It's different every day." The regulars nod, crisis averted. But your story will linger, retold as a warning or a joke. Remember that city slicker who tried to order vinaigrette? And in this little slice of 1954, tradition holds 3 dressings, 1 salad, and a world that's not quite ready for olive oil and vinegar. You and your friend ask, "Can we split the bill?" Dolores narrows her eyes. In a 1950s diner, the check is paid by the oldest, the man, or the one who lost a coin toss. Asking to split it marks you as an outsider, and possibly a communist. It should be simple. After all, it's the era of post-war prosperity and shiny new etiquette manuals. But in the diner, rules aren't written down, they're lived, passed from one generation of regulars to the next, like secret handshakes and the recipe for meatloaf. When you utter those 3 little words, "split the check," Dolores' smile wavers. She glances from you to your friend, then back again, as if searching for some sign of a hidden camera. You don't notice the silence at first, but the regulars do. Old Man Harper stops stirring his coffee. The mother with 2 kids in the corner looks up from her colouring book negotiations, her brow furrowed. Even the cook, in the middle of assembling a towering club sandwich, peeks out, knife in hand. For a brief moment, the entire diner seems suspended between outrage and amusement. Dolores leans in, voice low. "We don't do that here." She's not being rude, just informative, like a naturalist explaining the habits of a rare, confused bird. In this diner, checks are meant to be paid in a single, decisive motion. Splitting the bill? That's for big cities, or maybe Europe, where people eat tiny portions and talk philosophy. You try to clarify. "We just want to each pay for our own." Dolores' eyes narrow, her patience thinning like diner coffee at the end of a double shift. "Well, one of you can pay, and the other can pay next time." Your friend shrugs, but you persist, calculating down to the last nickel, awkwardly counting change in front of a crowd that considers "just put it on my tab" a noble tradition. The regulars watch, whispering among themselves. "Communists," mutters one, only half joking. "Or Californians." The notion of shared responsibility is an affront to the order of things. In their world, the check is a test of character, a measure of generosity, honour, and occasionally just who remembered to bring cash. To split is to shirk responsibility, to dilute the moment of magnanimity. Dolores presents the check to the oldest, by default. Your friend and you have a brief whispered debate, each trying to surrender and pay the whole thing, but it's too late. The ritual has been disturbed. You can feel the weight of local custom pressing down on you, stronger than the house salad dressing. In a last-ditch effort to blend in, you offer to cover the meal and let your friend get the next one. Dolores' eyes soften. That's more like it. The room exhales, order restored. The cook returns to his sandwich. The regulars resume their crossword puzzles. You've passed, barely. On your way out, Dolores offers a parting lesson. Next time, don't worry about splitting. Just make sure someone pays, and pays with a smile. The regulars nod approvingly. Even the mother with kids offers a supportive wink. Later, as you recount the tale to your friend, you'll laugh. Who knew? You'll say. It's just a check. But you'll remember, the diner isn't just a place to eat. It's a temple of tradition, a place where the rules are sticky as syrup and twice as sweet. You walk out into the sunshine, grateful for your friend, for the lesson, and for Dolores, who behind all that bluster just wants things to stay simple. And you promise yourself, next time, bring cash, and maybe flip a coin for good measure. You produce a bottle of your own hot sauce from your bag and apply it, liberally, to your hash browns. The cook gasps. Dolores clutches her pearls, and a local fireman quietly edges toward the extinguisher. Hot sauce in a 1950s diner is a secret, not a spectacle. It all unfolds with a flourish. Maybe you're a traveller from the southwest, or maybe you just believe every breakfast is improved by a jolt of fiery red mystery. You're used to a world where hot sauce is as ubiquitous as salt, where even a gas station burger gets a generous squirt of something labelled Inferno. But here, in the hallowed linoleum halls of a small-town 1950s diner, you're breaking a taboo so deep it isn't even listed on the menu of sins. You twist the cap. The familiar aroma wafts out. Vinegar, pepper, rebellion. You douse your hash browns, not with a discreet shake, but with the wild abandon of a chef on live television. The colour spreads across your plate like a warning flare. Dolores, in the midst of pouring coffee for Old Man Harper, goes rigid, her gaze shifting from mild curiosity to full alarm. She's seen ketchup on eggs, mayo on fries, even the occasional pancake tragedy. But this is different. The cook, whose closest brush with heat is a generous grind of black pepper, leans out from behind the pass, lips pursed in a silent whistle. In his universe, hot sauce is something you whisper about. I heard Joe keeps a bottle in his glove box, goes the rumour, passed quietly between truckers. You, with your bottle out in the open, are an agent of chaos. A hush settles. The local fireman, on duty for a cinnamon roll and a refill, grips his coffee mug a little tighter, eyes darting between you and the nearest fire extinguisher. The regulars shift in their seats, whispering about what might happen next. He'll burn a hole in the plate, someone says. He's going to regret that come lunchtime, adds another, to knowing nods. You take a bite, smile, and nod in satisfaction. The heat blooms, your taste buds dance, and you're in heaven. But you also realise too late that in this place, flavour adventures are private affairs. You glance around, trying for casual. Dolores approaches, clutching her pearls literally, and gives you the look reserved for people who ask for espresso. Is it safe? She asks, half joking, half sincere. You offer her a taste, holding out the bottle with the hopeful generosity of the truly oblivious. She recoils politely. No thank you, hun. My system's seen enough excitement. The cook grunts his agreement, waving off your offer with the spatula. My grandma used to say, if it needs sauce, it's not worth eating. The room erupts in gentle laughter, the tension easing but not evaporating. You realise you're now the hot sauce guy. For the rest of your visit, you're treated with the wary respect given to snake charmers and high-stakes gamblers. Dolores refills your coffee, quickly, as if expecting spontaneous combustion. The regulars sneak glances as you finish your meal, some impressed, others convinced you're doomed. When you pay, Dolores leans in, lowering her voice. Next time, just ask. We've got Tabasco in the back, but don't tell anyone. You wink, slip her a smile, and promise to be more discreet. You step into the sunlight, tongue tingling, a little more infamous than before. In the diner's unofficial history, your deed will be recounted for years. Remember when that one brought his own hot sauce, they'll say, voices tinged with awe and suspicion. You smile, knowing you've left your mark, fiery, unforgettable, and just a bit taboo. You order your eggs over easy, with the yolk broken and scrambled a little, but not too much, then cooked on both sides, but still runny. The short order cook's eye twitches. In the 50s, Eggs come one of 3 ways: fried, scrambled, or hard-boiled. Anything more complicated gets you a one-way ticket to the curb and a lifetime ban from Breakfast Club. You approach the counter, perusing the menu, feeling a little bold, or maybe just sleep-deprived. You decide you want your eggs exactly the way you remember from childhood, or maybe from a brunch spot in the city that lets you customize everything down to the color of your pepper. When Dolores asks for your order, you smile, thinking you're about to dazzle her with your discerning palate. Eggs, please, over easy, but break the yolk, scramble it a little, but not too much, then cook both sides, but keep it runny. She stares at you. The pen hovers. There is a long silence, broken only by the soft sizzle from the griddle and the sound of a coffee cup meeting its saucer with a thunk. Across the diner, heads turn. The cook leans out from behind the pass, his paper hat at a steeper angle, spatula clutched like a weapon. It's not that people here don't like eggs. They do, reverently, routinely, every single morning. But egg orders are supposed to be simple. You say scrambled, you get scrambled. You say fried, you get fried. You say hard-boiled, Dolores nods, and everyone gets on with their lives. What you've done is introduce a riddle wrapped in a mystery, rolled in cholesterol. In the 1950s diner, this is like ordering sushi in a steakhouse. Technically possible, but spiritually forbidden. The cook's eye twitches again as Dolores tries to translate your instructions. He wants them scrambled, but like over easy, but also runny. The cook sighs, running a hand over his face. We got fried, we got scrambled, we got hard-boiled. You want runny? Order sunny side up. You want scrambled? Say scrambled. But scrambled and runny and flipped both sides? That's an omelette's existential crisis, kid. You try to explain again, but the harder you try, the more confusing it gets. Dolores, true to her diplomatic calling, gives you a patient smile. Why don't we just do scrambled? They're always good here. The regulars nod, relieved, as if you've been rescued from the brink of disaster. But you're determined. Just try it, please, you say. She sighs, scribbles something on her pad that might as well be hieroglyphics, and disappears into the kitchen. The cook mutters, "In my day, eggs didn't come with instructions," and cracks 3 eggs into a pan with theatrical frustration. What you get back is a little bit of everything. An overflipped, undermixed, half-runny, half-set egg experience that's as close as anyone's going to get without violating local ordinances. Dolores sets the plate before you with a look that says, "Don't ask for this again." The regulars sneak glances, eager to see if you'll dare complain. You take a bite. It's fine. Not quite what you pictured, but not a disaster. You smile, give Dolores a thumbs up, and thank the cook as he grumbles behind the pass. The tension eases. The diner resumes its usual hum. But your reputation is set. The customer who tried to reinvent breakfast and barely survived. Next time, you'll stick to scrambled, or, at the very least, leave the metaphysical egg puzzles to philosophers and omelette chefs. Here, at Dolores's counter, breakfast is simple, direct, and blissfully uncomplicated. And so, as the neon diner sign flickers softly in the night, and the last pot of coffee sits half empty on the warming plate, your strange little journey through the sacred rules of the 1950s diner comes to an end. You survived the counterstool politics. You witnessed the ketchup crimes. You narrowly avoided being exiled for requesting vinaigrette like some kind of European spy. And through it all, you learned something important. Back then, even the simplest comforts came with 1,000 tiny expectations. A diner wasn't just a place to eat. It was a world, a community, a chrome-covered kingdom where Dolores ruled with an iron coffee pot, and where asking for your pie cold could get you remembered for generations in the worst possible way. It's funny, isn't it? How something as ordinary as breakfast could feel like walking through a social minefield where the punishment was public shame and being quietly banned from the only place in town that served freeze after dark. But those diners, and the people inside them, were part of something bigger. They were surviving their own era, with its own pressures, its own rules, its own strange comforts. They found routine in booths, warmth in small talk, and joy in a milkshake shared under buzzing fluorescent lights. So tonight, as you rest in your clean bed, with endless choices, modern menus, and the freedom to put hot sauce on whatever you want without being escorted out by a woman named Dolores maybe, whisper a quiet thank you to the past. To the short-order cooks, the soda jerks, the waitresses who carried 6 plates at once, and the regulars who treated counter stools like sacred inheritance. Because history may be ridiculous, but it's also proof that people have always been stubborn, hopeful, hungry, and just a little bit dramatic about breakfast. Good night.